My heart ached as I gripped the printed email that destroyed it all, not from anger, but from the nauseating realization that I'd been supporting their deceptions for ages. And I was finished. Finished with the humiliation. Finished with the subtle draining. Finished with the relatives I believed were mine. It wasn't the phrases on the paper that tore me apart. It was the emptiness surrounding them. Right then, I promised they'd never steal from me anymore. I'm Noah, and for far too long I was the person holding everything steady. My folks, Ellen and Ray, resided in a worn-out flat in a bustling outskirts area. Peeling paint, dim bulbs, a rental they couldn't manage. My sibling Leela wandered aimlessly, forever pursuing some fresh interest that faded quickly. I was the dependable type. The one who handled the housing costs when father's job as a repairman vanished. The one who transported mother to rehab sessions when her spine failed. The one who wired Leela funds for her crises, which invariably included fresh ink or show passes. I figured that's what kin meant. I figured I was the bedrock. In those days, we shared instances that seemed genuine. Evening poker rounds, father's vintage blues tracks crackling softly, mother's overly sugary cold drink. But at some point, devotion turned into a restraint. I overlooked it initially. I was occupied with additional hours at the storage facility, wiring cash, fixing their messes. I convinced myself I was essential, yet there were signs. The manner mother's voice grew cold when I mentioned I couldn't cover her latest prescriptions once. The way Leela sneered when I inquired about her recent creative endeavor. Father ceased questioning my existence, only dialing when debts accumulated. I'd sense these stings, these pointed feelings of bitterness, but I'd suppress them. I assured myself I was exaggerating. Then arrived the message. It was a Thursday, the sort of sticky night where the atmosphere sticks to you. I was lounging on my sofa, the buzz of a ventilator masking the road sounds when my computer chimed. A fresh note in our kin correspondence chain. Ellen's signature. I accessed it, anticipating another shared meme on appreciation or a sly remark. Instead, it was 6 terms. We've concluded you're improved without us. Leela responded with one icon, a smirking symbol. As if it were humor. As if they hadn't just carved me from their world with a single statement. I gazed at the display, the ventilator's noise dissolving into a muted thunder in my head. Without what? The relatives, the home I'd been funding, the existence I'd been sustaining. My heartbeat pounded, but my fingers remained firm as I composed a reply. Okay, I'm halting the housing transfers immediately. I pressed dispatch and waited. By 1 a.m. my messages were a battlefield. Ellen's notes flooded through. Initially confusion, then coercion, then sheer alarm. Noah, what are you up to? You can't simply depart. Leela joined, her phrases cutting. They're going to toss us out. Ray dispatched one sentence. This is harsh, Noah, harsh. I've been covering their housing for 3 years. 3 years of foregoing my own trips, consuming budget meals, extending each salary to maintain their ease. 3 years of zero appreciations, zero inquiries about my own endurance. I'd provided them all. My reserves, my evenings, my tranquility, and they labeled me harsh. But that wasn't the harshest part. The following day, I arose to 53 unseen messages. Ellen was in damage control. Let's converse, Noah. This escalated wrongly. Leela attempted to alter the tale. You realize he didn't intend it that way. Ray remained mute after his single poke, but I could sense his disapproval in the stillness. They assumed I'd cave. They assumed I'd rush back, plead for harmony, and resume the transfers. They assumed I was still the Noah who'd do whatever to dodge conflict. But something inside me had fractured. I reviewed our past correspondence chains, scanning through years of unbalanced exchanges. Me, transferred for housing. Inform me if you require extra. Them, received or zilch. Not once had they probed my world. My recent promotion at work. The occasion I crashed my cycle and hobbled for days. The evenings I stayed up, figuring how to manage their expenses. I was a salary source, not a sibling, not an offspring. Then I spotted it. A financial notice in my junk mail. A shared banking profile, one I'd established long ago for kin urgencies, was shut down. My details were still attached, but the amount was empty. They'd withdrawn $6,500. 3 days following declaring I was better without them. While they were sending me phony regrets, they were draining my final buffer. I didn't yell. I didn't smash a surface. I simply remained seated, the heaviness of it descending like icy liquid in my chest. They weren't merely excluding me, they were pilfering from me. And they believed I'd remain oblivious. I ceased responding to their notes. I restricted their contacts. I enhanced my home protection setup. I didn't rely on them any longer, not with my funds, not with my spirit. but they persisted. By Sunday, they appeared at my entrance. Ellen, Ray, Leela positioned in the corridor as if they hadn't just eviscerated me. Ellen's tone was gentle, strategic. Noah, we were stressed. We didn't intend it. Ray bobbed in his labor shoes, marking the ground. Leela fixated on her device, dodging my gaze. I rested against the frame, limbs crossed. What's altered now? I questioned. Why have you come? Ray hesitated, then revealed it. We didn't believe you'd truly proceed. Proceed, cease the transfers, depart. They viewed it as a ploy. They figured they could intimidate me, and I'd return sprinting with my payment method. They didn't anticipate my sincerity. I didn't admit them. I didn't elevate my tone. I merely stated I require space. And I closed the entrance, the snap resounding in the silent passage. The true strike came a week afterward. I was at my attorney's workspace. A lady called Carla who spoke plainly. I'd visited her to detach my finances from my relative's disorder. She accessed documents, her gaze sharpening as she examined the monitor. Noah, she uttered, her voice grave. Were you aware you're still registered on their rental contract? I froze. What? 3 years prior, I'd co-endorsed their flat agreement to prevent their removal. They claimed it was temporary, solely to obtain the spot. They vowed they'd eliminate me. They hadn't. I was still lawfully bound to their housing. Every transfer I'd executed, every concession, and they'd kept me liable. If they failed, it'd ruin my rating, my goals, my existence. And it became nastier. Carla discovered a credit check from 4 days earlier. Someone had attempted to initiate a borrowing in my identity, utilizing their location. It was rejected for inconsistent info, but it was them, my kin. They weren't simply depleting profiles. They were engaging in deceit. I released a hollow, fractured chuckle, not because it amused me, but because it was so characteristically them. They instructed me to vanish, then sought to pilfer my persona to remain stable. They didn't merely desire my funds. They desired my tomorrow. I submitted a deceit claim that day, locked my rating, cut every connection. I didn't contact them. I had no need. They'd revealed their genuine nature. I progressed, freer than I'd felt in ages. My reserves began to increase. I resumed carpentry, the aroma of wood shavings and polish occupying my nights. I chuckled more robustly, rested more soundly. I wasn't bearing their load any longer. They attempted to slink back. Aged recordings, enigmatic messages, even a container of youthful mementos delivered to my flat with a memo. You're still kin, Noah. I retained the container, but not for them. Those recollections belong to me, not theirs to manipulate. I don't despise them. I don't yearn for them either. I simply don't require them. And that's what they can't tolerate, that I'm liberated and they're not. If you were in my position, positioned in that corridor, observing them beg for pardon they didn't deserve, would you unlock the entrance? Share in the comments. I wish to hear.